Hello, this is Demon Phoenix, returning for my continuing deathmatch playthrough with No Armour, and this is the one that I've been streaming on Twitch, and I've also been uploading to YouTube afterwards. So, last time we picked it up, I had just fast travelled back to Novigrad, just so that I could actually sort out a few things, make sure that I could sell some things as we were overburdened from everything that we'd picked up. So, just having a quick look now. Checking that the stream's coming through. Again, this is all still on deathmatch and everything else. I have just taken the opportunity whilst the stream's been starting up to go around Novigrad and sell a few of the things, so we're no longer overburdened, and that's got us a few thousand crowns as well. So a few different things that I wanted to be doing in this one. I'm just going to be carrying on with the regular playthrough and everything else, and see what we've got coming up. So we need to do Ladies of the Wood, so I'll be going to Crookback Bog for that, and that finishes off the Baron's quests, and then we'll be moving on to Novigrad after we finish those Velen quest lines. And we've also got a few of the other things that I need to do, which is to complete the side quests if I want to do any of those. So there are a few, like a few monster contracts around this level, and the longest ones are the invitation from Kira Metz, so if you do those type of quest lines, then they do take a while as well, and you can get some good stuff and more recipes and everything from that. So I think that's worth doing. So I'll go and do the Kira quests next. I think I'll just go and do the Crookback Bog first, and then after that, I'll go and do Kira's quest and return for the level 9 quest where you come back to Crookback Bog with the Baron. So that's what we're up to now. Just got still using the same swords. I've repaired all my gear and everything else as well. Not that the armour is providing any protection, because that's purely for aesthetics. But yeah, I just need to maybe repair those swords before I do that. I still haven't got a Divana runestone yet, although I do have 2 lesser Divana runestones. So if I wanted, I could buy that and then put a Divana runestone in my silver sword as well, which I am tempted to do. But you do normally get one on the beach in Skellige, so I'll have a look. Just have a look how much that'll cost me to do first. Speak to this guy, and then we will head back that way. So, if we're going to combine those 2 lesser Divanas, then I would need to buy these from this guy. So let's have a look. The Divana one. It's a little bit random where you find the Divana ones. There are certain places where you will normally get them, but not always. There's a Morana. So that'd only be 181 crowns. And then I would have to use the 2 lesser Divanas to get that 3% bleeding stone. But I have quite a lot at the minute anyway, so I think I'll do that. So I've also crafted some broadhead bolts which do 100% bleeding chance, and I'll be able to use those from level 9, so that'll be useful. I'm just going to repair my swords as well, and then we can go on. These are the other swords that I'm just carrying at the moment. Again, this one has a little bit of critical hit damage bonus and adrenaline bonus, so that one's not bad. The Quen Insane Intensity won't really make a difference. And that's the fake Arendite, but that would be doing more damage, so I could put some runestones in that as well. But I've decided not to do that just for now. I'll just stick with the Viper one, because when it's a sort of playthrough where I'm doing a lot of dodging around, it's a good idea just to instead have the poison percentage that the Viper swords have. So that 10% chance to poison on the silver sword and the 15% chance on the other sword does make a big difference. So I'm just going to put this Divana runestone in the silver sword, and then I'll go and carry on. So a few things that you can get around here. As long as there are no guards about, you can normally loot if you need to. And one of the other things that I was going to do that I have just remembered is I was going to go and grab the there's something specific that I was going to go and grab from the herbalist, because the next quest lines have a lot of necrophages in, so I'll be using necrophage oil pretty frequently. And whilst I have a lot of money to spare, I'm just going to make sure that Yeah, whilst I have a lot of money to spare, I'm just going to go and get the enhanced necrophage oil. So I probably would have found this somewhere at some point, but it's something that I just use a lot of the time. So I'm just going to go and get that and make sure I have it and craft it before I go and do these parts in the wood. Just see if there's anything that I can sell here. Don't necessarily need this alcohol and everything else. So I'm just going to sell a few of these. Because unless I was doing a specifically themed playthrough, which is something that I was debating, doing an alcoholic playthrough where you use gourmet and the alcohol and remain drunk the whole time. But if you're not doing that, then you don't need this stuff. So I can just get rid of some of these. And then just came in here, and this is what I came in here for. Just going to play a round of Gwent to start off. And then I will be going to the herbalist after that. So just quickly win this game, get something else. She's using Northern Realms, so I don't particularly need the Impenetrable Fog card, especially when I've got these. I'll just keep the others because they could indeed be useful, depending on how strong her deck is. So we've got that Dijkstra card there. Just take that to play back first. And this is obviously something tactically used many times already. When fighting playing anybody with the Nilfgaard deck, I always have 3 decoys in my deck as soon as possible. I've also got that Scorch card just sitting there, so if the catapults become a problem, then I can very easily get around that. And I actually got the second Grimford Reaver there myself, so should be pretty easily able to win this round if the need arises just by playing the second one. I'm enjoying this playthrough so far. If you've been watching any of the previous episodes, you'll see what's been going on with that. I'm just going to play these 2 spies here, get a bit of a lead in cards, and then just going to play this to win outright. So unless I get the other catapult, I'll just be bringing back the Grimford Reaver cards instead. And of course I do get the other catapult, so that's a little bit annoying, but never mind. I'll just play these first. And that's got the Scorch out of the way, so if I do play the catapults back, then there's nothing they can do about it. That's interesting because unless they have a medic, they'll not be able to play the other one of those cards. And that still leaves my Scorch available to me as well. So I'm going to play the leader card just to take up a turn there, and then they'll run out of cards before I do if they follow that tactic. Now, because it seems unlikely that they are going to replay any spies, because they've used their medic already, I would expect, I'm just going to decoy that one off. And the reason that I'm doing that first is so that my catapult card isn't on the rogue, so I can use this Scorch. And Scorch that one there. And then I'm going to replay this with the other catapult. And then even if they Scorch off that 16 score card, I'll have another one to put down there. But they don't have another Scorch, so I can just play the other one. And of course I've won very easily there. So I'll not be stupid enough to do that, although I would still win even if I played that Biting Frost. Like to leave the score as high as possible. Okay, so we'll get another random card there. Been getting a lot of monster cards, but yes, finally get Villain Tretameth. Now this is the best random card that you can win. It's a neutral card, it can go into any deck, and it scorches the top scoring row. There's top scoring card on the top row, as long as their melee row is over 10 in total. It can be decoyed, it can be medicked because it's not a hero card, so you can replay it multiple times. It's one of the absolutely most effective cards against any hand that has really high scoring melee cards in, and in particular it's absolutely wonderful against the monster deck, which relies almost exclusively on that. So absolutely tons of good stuff to do with that card. and really good fun. So I'm just going to come out here, talk to the herbalist, and I did say in one of the earlier episodes when I first came to Novigrad to get access to the Novigrad stash, I was talking about how it's a really good idea to check what this guy's got, and I always just have a quick look first. So I decided not to buy anything the first time round, but now that 75 crowns is virtually nothing for the enhanced necrophage oil, and that is something that I want. Now these bombs I don't care about enough to pay 300 for each recipe, so that's not really necessary, but these ones would be fairly useful, and they're only 38 each, so I'm quite tempted to buy those. Normally I don't really buy a lot of stuff, but like in this playthrough in particular, I'm not going to need any money for crafting anything like not going to need any money for crafting anything like armor, because I'm not using any, so it's not really necessary. I'll just see if there's anything else that I've not picked up whilst collecting that I might need to make these with. So I need bear fat really for these, so I'm going to go and get some bear fat. Now 4 of them is quite a lot to get, so I may actually just bite the bullet and buy those. But I can make enhanced Petri's filter and enhanced thunderbolt, so I'll make those as soon as possible. Need more drowner tongues in order to be able to make the Maribor forest, so I may actually get some of those as we go through this, because you do fight a lot of drowners. And I'd need a light essence from fighting a noon wraith or something similar for the enhanced Goran Aureole, so I'll have to watch out for that. And then Necker hearts from slightly higher level Neckers as well. Water essence from water hags, so I'll probably get enough to be getting the cat as we go through this, but everything else not just yet. Now Nostrix is fairly easy to get as well. I could either buy it here, or it's very easy to collect from the villages just outside Novigrad, so I could always go and have a look at that first. Bear fat, like I say, you do get from fighting bears. You'll normally get 1 or 2, so I'm perfectly happy to just wait to get that from fighting bears normally, but in this particular instance, because I need 4 for that enhanced necrophage oil, finding 4 bears would take a while, so I'm just going to sell a few things to make up for that instead. So sell a few of these, and I've plenty of other stuff that I'm able to sell if needs be. If somebody sells Dwarven Spirit for 7 at a time, then that is an alchemist that gives reasonable prices, so sometimes offload a few of those. There's a few other things like Temerian Rye, won't really need that, so you can sell excess of that. So it's just about knowing some of the stuff you can sell, and I went into a bit more detail about this with my video about making money early game. So there's a few things that you don't get very many of that you would never really sell, but there are a few things that you can quite easily do without. Like if you have enough Nilfgaardian Lemon and Temerian Rye, you can sell some of those, because you'll always have enough with your Alkahest and everything else to be able to sell those usually. And the Nilfgaardian Lemon and the Rye are a lot more valuable, so you can sell a few of those instead. So I bought 4 bear fat there. Just make my enhanced necrophage oil, and then I will just make my way to continue what I was doing before, and I can use that oil when I'm fighting the necrophages in these various quests. Now you will find a bunch of stuff just exploring and looting in Novigrad. I haven't decided if I'm going to do this whole thing on stream yet, but if not, then that's one of the things I would do on stream, would just be running around looting a little bit. I probably would have done that already if this was a normal playthrough, so heartily recommend that you do that. And just got Nostrix there, just pick one up randomly. So what it was that I needed that for was the enhanced dancing star, so I can make that as well. That's a really useful bomb. That's the enhanced version of the one that deals burning to enemies, which is really useful. So right, so just going to check that I'm not overburdened with anything pointless at the minute. These are the ones that I'll be able to use at level 9, so I'm just going to keep those on me. It's going to be a long time before I'm level 19 or 22, so not much point in me keeping this stuff. So I'm just going to be keeping those. Got a few repair kits now, so I can repair my armor a little bit, not that it really matters. but I can repair my swords up to 40% there as well, so that's useful as well. So just check that there's nothing that I really need right now. I'm just going to dump anything silver or gold in my stash because I shouldn't have any need for those until I'm making the griffin swords, as far as I'm aware. So no need to keep those, but because I'm not wearing heavy armor like normal, even if you're wearing light or medium armor, they still take up space in your inventory, whereas the things that I'm wearing now are just the elegant clothing, so they're extremely light. So that's useful as well. Just makes it even easier to manage my inventory, so 26 is quite low for that. So is there anything else that I really want to do before I go and do these main quests? Now I did have a few deaths in the last episode, mainly from taking things on that are a couple of levels above me, which normally wouldn't be a problem, and normally I can quite comfortably deal with red skull enemies as well, but some of them are just quite difficult to either out damage or to survive against. So really I want to be staying at things that are more or less a similar level to me, so I shouldn't really be going out of my way like I was doing to fight some red skull enemies. Now there's a contract down here, there's a few things you can get down here as well, but not really necessary for me to do at the minute. So instead of riding all that way on Roach, I'm just going to fast travel down, and then we're going to go and investigate the swamp. Still missing one quest notice board there in Novigrad, but I don't think it's really for any of the undiscovered locations, and it's certainly not for any that are places of power, because I believe I've got all of the places of power already in Velin, so not really worth me doing. One of the things that I was considering actually is once I've got a couple of the alchemy skills, I could put those in the slot that Gourmet is currently in, and I'd probably be able to manage the trip to Skellige and go into Skellige early. That's another one that I have a YouTube video of. Actually pretty easy to do that. So this enemy down here, by the way, is an Algul, and that'll be a little over leveled for me. The bears up here, seeing as how I need bear fat, there are normally a couple of bears up here, so I'm just going to see what level they are, because those are one-on-one fights. And if they are around and I can beat them, then I do need bear fat potions and oils. So let's just see what this bear is. So that's level 12. So with me being level 7, he is within my range. So let's see if I can take this one out. Will each bear, which I think I've just done there. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my most used potion. But hopefully I should be able to take this thing down. It's down to half health already, so I should be able to do fairly well at that. And just keep dealing hits to it. So most things, as long as they're not red skull, and you can hit them, you can inflict bleeding or burning on them, or poisoning if you have poison blades and the viper swords, you can take down fairly easily. So eminently possible to take these things down. And the enhanced thunderbolts kicking in, doing a bit of extra damage there as well. So you can normally take stuff down if you're careful about it. And that should get me another bear fat, and there is sometimes 2 bears around here, so I might just go and look for the other one if it's about. But because they're not particularly common enemies, you can find them, but they're not particularly common enemies, so I didn't want to be going looking for 4 of them to be able to make that particular enhanced oil, because like I say, the necrophage one is one I use a lot. Normally I wouldn't recommend buying a lot of ingredients. I actually normally do most of my playthroughs without buying any at all, but in this instance, especially because I'm not going to be crafting any armors or anything like that, I do have even more money to play with than you usually do. And as you can see, I've already got, because I already had that 5,000 or so crowns, it's not made much of a dent, and there are plenty of ways to make money if that's what you want to do. So carry on here, just make sure I've looted everything. And then I'll need to find in the actual loot all this again, Grimrai or whatever stuff has to all of as so you can just use your and dwarven. You can sell all of the dwarven spirit or alkahest by any means though, because those are pretty important in terms of making your recipes, and then obviously for meditating as well. So put Hangman's Venom on there, and there's my enhanced necrophage oil. It's going to be using that. Take these bandits out. And again, there is a archer. So whilst I'm not doing, if I'm not doing any actions, I just want to be trying to get near to him to close the distance. And that barrel exploded straight away. Not quite sure why, but I meant to set it on fire and then roll away from them. But at least this way they're all dead still, so that works absolutely fine. See if there's anything handy around here. Got the Black Blood Potion manuscript, which is useful against vampires. You don't fight those very often, but it is something to use there, so just make that as well. And grab all this other stuff. There's always lots of random stuff to pick up, which is why it's always a good idea to explore and to, you know, loot things. I still have Gourmet slotted at the minute, so I'm going to make good use of it whilst I do. And this is why I wanted the enhanced necrophage oil, because a lot of the things that you fight here are the drowners. And it does help against them. There's also water hags, and they are also necrophages, so whilst you're fighting big crowds of those, it is extremely useful to have that enhanced necrophage oil. So something to consider before you do both this quest and the ones in for Kira's on Fyke Isle. A lot of those enemies are necrophages, so always worth bearing in mind. And the other thing is that you have to reapply the oils less frequently if you've got the enhanced ones, which doesn't technically matter because you can go back into the menu at any point during fights, and it doesn't make a difference, but it is useful for a sort of just convenient standpoint. One of the things that I am, if this was a no deaths playthrough still, if I hadn't suffered any deaths, then I would have been playing quite conservatively, but whilst I'm going to be still minimising the deaths, I don't care about it being actually a no death playthrough anymore, because it isn't. So I can be a bit more reckless with some of the things that I wanted to do. So I did think that if I had a death or two there, like I have done in the last episode, I could start doing a few more adventurous things, because I don't care about it being a no death playthrough any longer. And one of the things that I am going to do then is I'm going to be looking at going to Skellige early and trying that with no armour, which shouldn't be too difficult really. It's just more of the same sort of dodging and staying out of trouble. And one of the things I really want to do is try and get the Ancient Lesson decoction and put some skill points into Ard Sweep, because as useful as Ard Sweep is itself, with the Ancient Lesson decoction it's extremely useful, even if it's not on a Signs build. And if you've watched my New Game Plus walkthrough, for the Deathmarch New Game Plus walkthrough, you know that that is one of my absolute favourite tactics, and I just find it extremely effective. So, see, this is the thing, like this didn't have an undiscovered location or anything like that, but it's always worth just having a check if you think it might be worth looking for, because then again there's the Archgriffin decoction, and that's an extremely useful decoction. And again, another thing that is one of the few things in the game that's worth trying to beat a very strong enemy early on for. So, worth doing there. Let's get the enhanced Thunderbolt. Took a little bit of damage there, but again, set these burning. And back on. There are a couple of full potions that I've got now as well. Black Blood does fire, so I could on the recipe made that. So if you have any slight conflicts. Calcium Equum, that's very useful to be able to make the more advanced bombs, so useful that I just found some of those. And I've also got the Petri filter as well. So I think what I'll do is I'll just put that in a slot. Because basically, every time I use any of my alcohol to meditate now, it will replenish everything that I've got in potions. So all of this stuff can be used, which is extremely helpful. So you see here, I've used 2 of these potions, none of my swallow or enhanced Petri's filter. So I can get a boost of 20% sign intensity whenever I want using that. So before the next time I meditate, I might as well use up some of those as well. And the thing that Petri filter is particularly useful for is instead of using Thunderbolt and boosting some of that damage from my attacks, I can use Petri filter and have a much better chance of burning enemies instead. So I can just set them burning and then dodge away with Igni. I usually use that in tandem with the enhanced Tornial, but that recipe wasn't available for me to buy yet. So I just making do with the normal Tornial for now. As you can see here, I can use the Petri filter, and then if I can group these enemies together a little bit, I should be able to get a bunch of them set on fire at once. So the higher sign intensity gives you a better chance of actually burning the enemies. And that's particularly useful so that I can try and catch 2 at once. Didn't actually get a burn now, which is a bit of a shame, but the sign intensity boost will also mean that it'll be doing a very slightly higher damage with the actual base sign, so with the actual damage from Igni. The way that Igni normally works is that, well, the way that Igni does work is that you will... Did I see something yellow there? No. The way that Igni does work is that it does damage from burning, first of all, which you can see here. So there it's doing 129 fire damage and a 58% chance to burn. But the burn is much more important than the actual fire damage itself. So that's something to bear in mind. And the reason for that is that burning is based on the enemy's actual hit points themselves. So it's a percentage based damage, which is why it's extremely effective and one of the most important tools to make use of in Deathmatch, particularly early on, because if you can burn enemies with Igni, that's extremely useful. So that's the reason in my Deathmatch walkthrough that the first skill I always take is going to be the Griffin School techniques, and that's because that skill gives you a really massive boost in your stamina regeneration and also 20% sign intensity boost, which because the starting gears are 4 pieces of medium gear. So that's my favourite way to play early on. And that's also one of the reasons that this playthrough is a little more challenging. It's because I don't have the medium armour equipped because I'm not using any armour, and I'm avoiding using cat school techniques, which would technically work with the clothes that I'm wearing at the moment, because these are 4 pieces of light armour. But I'm only wearing these for aesthetic purposes, so I'm not using the cat school techniques with these to keep it as being no armour. It's exactly the same as if I was playing without any armour at all. But yeah, the Griffin School techniques is always the first thing that I get, and you can actually, I think, forego Gourmet quite easily as well. If you get used to using Quen to stop taking damage, then you very rarely have to heal damage. And if you were to watch my Deathmatch walkthrough, then you would see how you can get some food items by killing the chickens in White Orchard very easily before you actually even start the game proper, before you've encountered any enemies apart from the first lot of ghouls that are compulsory. And then you can also go and make Swallow if you know where you're looking, and get some Monster Brain. So Drowner Brain I think it needs, and Celandine. So it's never compulsory to use Gourmet, even though it is a very useful and convenient skill. And the convenience factor is useful. Like I say, it stops me having to continuously reapply. The food items and things like that. But there are so many food items that it's not a compulsory skill. It's more of a convenient sort of useful one. So I'm using it in this playthrough, but normally I would just go with Griffin School techniques. So there are so many ways to play the game, though. It's extremely interesting. So just picking up a few things there. Get blocked from talking to this young child here, so I need to go and distract the kids and all that kind of stuff. First I'm just going to go and check what I can loot in any of these places. This one's locked. The big main house does have some interesting things in it from what I remember. So I'll just make sure and go loot there as well. Really atmospheric and beautifully done atmosphere and music in this area of the game. Crookback Bog. It's really well done in terms of it being, you know, sort of very dreary. And like I say, atmospheric, so maybe I can't get into the main building yet. It's just these three. So anyway,
Why don't you?
Okay, let's go. Okay, no idea if you actually have to give them anything like that, but always seems to work. So okay, so we're just going to do all this stuff and then go from here. You do have to make the quite troubling choice of what you want to do in terms of the village of Downwarren or the Crones, so never a fun choice to make, and both endings turn out really, really badly, so no good choice to make here, which, you know, I'm assuming you'd know if you're watching a full playthrough of the game for a challenge playthrough, so apologies if, you know, that spoiled anything for you, but I am kind of assuming that most people watching this have already played a game that's been out for 3 years or so, but just in case, I do apologise if that spoiled anything. So just try and get everything burnt here. The water hag will do pretty reasonable damage, but nothing too high, so try and set them burning. Use the petri filter there, but the hags are a little more resistant to burning than the drowners, which are weaker enemies. So she might not burn as easily, even with the petri filter being used. So just need to chill out on those a little bit. Took a few hits there. So I'll just keep going up to finish these ones off. But still pretty easy to do. Got water essence there, that'll let me make the cat potion. That was the only thing I was missing for that. So I'll just do that before I forget. And now we just need to find Johnny the Godling.
Johnny's been through here.
Still got one Tony Owl, and I'm just going to save that for when we have to fight the Wyvern shortly. There's be a Wyvern coming up, and a few Harpies as well, so just need to find where he's gone. So it's just another tracking sort of quest. Find where Johnny is, and then go from there.
Tracks lead to a burrow. Wonder what's inside.
I could tell you, me, I know. Anyway,
Johnny?
so we're just going to go through this, and then finish all this off. So, right.
Lost. Can I?
Okay, let's go. So we've got to try and get his voice back, and I'll fight a few more things on the way. So just check how many oils I've got on my sword. So you can see there that it shows how many oils there are on your sword in the top left if you have those. If you have those icons on, just under where the food icon is for gourmet, underneath the stamina bar. So that's useful. So I'm just going to try and get these guys to come through the poison mist here, and then I can try and deal some extra damage to them. And that deals a big chunk of damage there, and make them a lot easier to take out. You can get staggered by drowners, but you can just dodge out of it, so it's much less worrying than you might otherwise think. and these go down pretty easily. So again, just going to pick up all of those. Always worth seeing if you get a drowner tongue or anything else like that. Just because you use those for the Maribor Forest recipes. Probably got enough now actually for the actual Maribor Forest itself, so I'll just nip back into the menu shortly and do that. Just check there's nothing missing from this house. This might be one that I've been to already, but they all look the same. So yeah, it's that chest that I already got before. And I was saying about exploring if it's something that you've not come across before. So these are things that I have actually already explored. Just making our way over to try and rescue Johnny's voice. And then we'll continue with the quest. Alright, so off we go. Not quite sure which the quickest or easiest way up is. I think it's over this way. Now there are sometimes hybrids over here, the harpies, so use hybrid oil first and then switch to the draconid oil afterwards. Still just got my regular hybrid oil for now, as I need a Arinia eye, which you only get in Skellige to do that. So there's the Maribor Forest, and that's a useful one again. Lets you get your quicker adrenaline build up in combat, which can be extremely useful, particularly seeing as how we have Undying as well. So
Show me what you got.
let's kill these things first. When I was exploring earlier in the game, one of the things that we said was extremely useful against these was Ard and particularly Axii. If there are not many of them, then it can be pretty useful to just use Axii on them, and they will actually fall out of the sky. And you can actually cut them down and sometimes finish them off immediately with a counter attack like that by timing your press of guard. So that's what I did to that one there. Just took him down. So I believe that's all the harpies. But the nest is also guarded by the actual draconid whose nest it is, which is there. It's not really close enough at the moment. But in fact it's so far away that I could actually avoid it, but I want to see if I can get a mutagen from it, because those mutagens are used like lesser red mutagens, so they can be useful. Actually just going to use the Maribor Forest instead of the Petri filter here. In fact, I'll just use that actually in the combat. So go and take this thing out, try and get the mutagen. Normally it is guarding the nest, so also just want to show how you would take this thing down. It's a level 9 wyvern. So a little bit higher level, but because it's not a red skull enemy, should still be pretty doable. You can knock it out of the sky pretty easily with the crossbow if it takes off. And they are actually susceptible to burning as well, so you can inflict statuses to it. Actually had the bolts with bait equipped by accident, which is why that red glow there, that actually I believe attracts enemies to attack the enemy, attracts other monsters to attack the enemy, so they can be pretty useful. I never make good use of them myself. It's something that not really used often, so but for the most part we just want to be using these. Keep it grounded with that. Not even aiming most of the time, just auto firing. Try and burn it with Igni the odd time that it does get attacks in. I managed to take that out as well. So that's why I wanted to take that out. You can get a wyvern mutagen. Those are useful because you can use them in place of lesser reds. And now I actually have two, so I can also use one to make the wyvern decoction if I want. Which is another little useful decoction, where every strike in combat that you hit without getting hit yourself will increase your damage for the rest of the fight until you take a hit. So with a dodge heavy sort of combat style like we're using in this No Alchemy build, in a No Armour build, sorry, that's another one that's extremely useful. So I might make that a little later on, and that's another one that we can use. So off we go. We're just going to skip through all these dialogues, and then I'll go back and have to make a deal with the crones to go and take care of the demon tree. And like I say, make the very harrowing choice where nothing ever actually turns out well, no matter which choice you take there. Just going to meditate quickly, get all my potions back. Got a few other things that we're going to be fighting against here. More water hags and drowners, so again this is why we got the necrophage oil first. And whilst I've got gourmet, I might as well be making use of the 80 strength foods. Although you can cope just fine if you're not using gourmet with the other ones. So do you want to get that enhanced Tony Owl potion? Hopefully I find the recipe for that, or I'm able to buy it from somewhere soonish. So I actually managed to deal good damage to the water hag there by setting her on fire. And that gives me time to take out the drowner while she's distracted. And that's one of the extremely good benefits of Igni as well. So you need to let them burn for as long as possible, just as the burning was about to end there. I actually struck her because I knew the burning was going to come to an end, but normally you want to leave them burning for as long as possible. So even though you're taking out some water hags, you're very unlikely, I don't think it's actually possible to get the water hag decoction from these low level ones. You might get the water essence, which you need for making the cat potion and a couple of other things, but you won't get the water hag mutagen unless you're taking out a higher level one, like a sort of, I believe you can sometimes get it from the level 15 bilge hags that are normally found across the world, but it's normally the level 20 water hags that you have a better chance of getting the water hag mutagen from. And that allows you to make the water hag decoction, which is really good. And the main thing about that one is it adds 50% to your base sword damage whilst you're at full health. So again, if you're using Quen often, or you're staying at full health and dodging for the most part, you can make good use of the water hag decoction, and that's actually one of the key staples of my most overpowered builds, particularly the Uber build, so that's good. Okay, let's have a look. Skip through all this stuff, and then we go like that. So just going to deal with the crones and everything else. Okay, so just going to go through all this stuff. That's the dagger I need, and then I'll go and take care of the tree. There's a few different ways you can do the tree. You can either make a deal with it, I think, you can trick it and then kill it, or you can actually try and kill it outright as well. So I've just reached level 8 now. The really good thing about level 8 is it gives you another ability slot. So I don't have anything to put in it just at the minute. The options are I can either get precise blows or strength training. I can get fleet-footed to make my dodging even more effective, but dodging's very effective anyway, so that's not necessarily needed. Or I can get poison blood, things a little easier. And I love acquired absolute, so I'll be going with that. But then again, I could also, you know, make a bit of an inroads into getting these signs if I want to use the ancient lesson decoction. So I think for now I'm just going to leave that. Now normally I wouldn't ever encourage anyone to just, you know, leave a slot unused. But for now, I could always respec later though. So would I go with acquired tolerance or poison blades first of all? Now it won't be too long before I get an actual another slot, so I might just go with acquired tolerance for now. And I can always put the points into poison blades and switch over to that if I feel it's beneficial as well. So Just going to go through those. And again, Acquired Tolerance is one of the absolute best skills in the game. Because it's so powerful, I may actually sort of steer away from using it a little bit. We'll see how it goes if it makes it too similar to my other playthroughs. But then again, we are using no armor, so you know, let's not be too harsh on ourselves. Got some bear fat there. Again, that's useful for making potions and the such like. Just see if there's anything particular I want to make with that now that I have it. There's still a couple of other ingredients missing for those, so not just yet. Ominous amount of human bones down here, obviously. Although it's pretty obvious that, you know, those sorts of crones that you're dealing with are not really very nice in the first place, so it should be pretty obvious. So we're just going to carry on now, head straight to the tree and deal with that. I ride roach for the most part, not particularly necessary for me to be killing all of the drowners we come across. I'll just see how many of these I need for the enhanced Maribor. I do need 2 more drowner tongues for that. So I may take out some of the drowners as we go. I believe this is a guy for the Swamp Thing contract. Oh no, that's just Johnny making his way home. Ha! Okay, so on we go. Do have a bit of the enhanced necrophage oil still on my blade, so make good use of that if I come across any of them. Just make sure I get any pickups or anything else. Already been through this area. This is where I killed the couple of bandits before. Let's check I've not missed anything this way. Quick use of the Witcher senses as you go. Now, I believe usually the werewolf is still here, but because I already came to get this place of power earlier, that's why that marker's already there. It shouldn't really be necessary, so just need to this is actually heading back to Downwarren first, so I'll just speak to the main man in charge. Normally kill geese when geese are about, just because they can sometimes give you feathers. And you use feathers for making various things like runestones. If you're creating runestones from scratch, you have to use feathers. And if you don't kill the geese that you come across and ducks and stuff like that, then it'd take you more time. Because you'd have to buy the feathers instead of, you know, potentially looting some. So, although not getting any feathers here, but never mind. There you go. I got a feather. Right. So speak to the alderman. And just go and find out what's going on at the tree. Then I can ride across the swamp and get those as well. And he says something like, you work for them, and I'm like, I don't work for nobody. Yeah, I don't belong to anyone. There we go. Dark powers, yes, we know.
Ladies of the wood.
It's interesting because if you read the She That Knows book, it tells you a little bit about the sort of relationship between the crones and the spirit in the tree. So you know that dark tidings are afoot already before you even start doing this. They're both very dark and powerful forces. It's interesting, you don't really get the full gravity of the situation with the Baron until you've completed the quest and find out how everything ends and what decisions you make and how they affect the ending of the quest. And Witcher 3's got some, you know, quite unique and almost bleak sort of quests where it really makes you face some difficult decisions, and there can be decisions that you have to make without knowing the full story, and you just have to make your best judgment and things like that. So it really does have some interesting stuff, and this quest is one of those. So from the actual gameplay No Armour standpoint, that's where the place of power is, and normally the werewolf is guarding it, but we killed him already when we got the place of power and have been using his werewolf mutagen as it is. Just going to draw from the place of power again just to get a bit of a Igni sign intensity boost, because I I'm going to do this the short way, which is to fight all of the little insectoid enemies and just kill the tree outright. The Ignisan intensity helps with that because it makes it easier to actually burn everything. So can't get through that way, you always have to go this way instead. But again, when I came to power, I already just nipped down into this bit to get the extra. Both have been looted, but apparently they have different things already looted from those, which is one thing in, but apparently it has the enhancer as well. Actually, Reed, somebody had said something. Certain won't be available if you come to things when the level is too low. Interesting to note. So this thing obviously never really sounds like a good idea to be helping this thing out. But the truth is that, you know, doing the crone's bidding isn't a good idea anyway. So there are no good answers to this. So pick whichever one you want. Oh, the kids are in danger, so that's pretty bad, but it's just like, well, time to kill this thing anyway. Just going to be taking those out. The Andragas need insectoid oil. Fortunately, I have the enhanced version of that as well. Can make use of a couple of other potions as well, so I'm just going to do that while I'm in the menu. And again, I have that little bit of Ignisan intensity. So if I can get a few of these together, I can burn them as well. Set them to burning and do a good chunk of damage there. And otherwise, just keep dodging. And then you can get some hits in on this one in the interim. Just going to try and get a few hits on this, which I did quite successfully. And then just take out a few of the workers again. And obviously I have a lot more toxicity now, so I can make use of all of these because of acquired tolerance, and that's why it's such a good skill. You can use multiple potions at a time, or you can use multiple decoctions and everything else, so it's very useful for that. It lets me be a little less careful than I would usually be as well, so that's useful. So took that out fairly easily, and the reason I like to do this is because you get all of these Andraga stuff, so you can get some useful things there like mutagens and everything else. So I like doing it that way, especially because all of the choices are pretty bad choices, so there is no particularly good choice in this quest. So just going to kill those, might as well get the stuff from them as well, and it's also the quickest way of doing it instead of going off and searching for all the little side stuff you have to do. Never a good idea to leave an evil spirit alive, let's be honest. Alright. So done that. And destroyed the evil spirit, which again, you can't feel too bad about destroying an evil spirit, you know. So get this guy's ear, because, you know, why not? That's what we trade in swamps. We trade in people's ears. Are you serious? Anyway. So got to go and do this. See some crones about a Ciri. And I believe we have like a Ciri's mission. Then we speak to the Baron. Then we have the Ciri quest where you have to fight the Basilisk, which is insanely annoying. But what can you do? Got hunting boots, which are obviously completely useless. Have to deal with the extremely evil crones who are, you know, really nasty, obviously. Okay. Yeah, need their care. Man, these things are grim. Not calling them women, they're not women. But yeah, anyway, they're trying to make out like it's Ciri's fault when all they wanted to do was, you know, eat her blood, so, you know, or drink her blood, so. Don't think they can really be held as not being to blame, so. Just having a quick drink there. Now, unfortunately, this isn't like a proper thing that you have to do with Siri. This is just literally you just run away. So you don't have to fight anything. You don't have to do anything. You can just, you know, run. And you can actually just dodge with the A dodge, which goes even further than the B one. So as dramatic as this scene may be, it is literally just mashing A. So just get rid of that as soon as possible. The Imlerith comes looking for her. We will deal with him later, but not right now. And then we are going to be carrying on with the story, going back and speak to the Baron. And then I believe you have to do the bit where you fight the Basilisk with Ciri, which is one of the hardest, most difficult parts of Deathmarch and is extremely irritating, but never mind. Okay. Just going to skip through all this stuff. I mean, these are fantastic storylines when you first play the game, but again, this is just a playthrough where I'm skipping through things and doing things as quickly as possible because I've already watched all the cutscenes and been through the game many, many times. But yeah. I still hark back every time to when you're doing these again. To how it went the first time and what a fantastic game it is. I do wish you could come back and try and kill the last crone without it being the bad ending, but not able to do that right now, so. So we get the entries for the 3 crones, and we're just going to run back to a fast travel point, or I could just use the one here actually. I believe there's one right in the village, so. Yeah, nothing I particularly want from any of these question marks, so I'll not go and look for those yet. Could go down here and get the contract notice for the one of the contracts down here, which is a lower level one. But again, there's nothing I particularly need down here, so not really that bothered to doing that yet. So I need to get back to Crow's Perch, so I'm just going to fast travel there first. So you get a bunch of experience for doing these quests, so I very quickly got to halfway through level 8 already. Almost at level 9, and that's when we get a mutagen slot again. And I'll be able to use that. So there are a couple of routes I could go down for how I want to build Geralt as a character here. I could try and get to the third level of the red tree, the combat tree, by getting 5 points into another skill, and then, well, I'd need 7 points total into the red tree, and then I could get Razor Focus, which is a brilliant skill, particularly because it goes very well with Undying. So I'd start off with an adrenaline point in every fight, and that would mean that Undying would trigger automatically. So that's something that I could consider. But the all red tree type of build is one of my least favourite types of build. I don't mind it when it's mixed with alchemy or if you're trying to be particularly powerful, but from an actual gameplay standpoint, it's not my favourite. I do prefer to mix things up a little bit, so either using my Uber build or using a sort of more hybrid type. And again, if you watch my New Game Plus walkthrough, I actually made excellent use of Ard Sweet plus the Ancient Lesson Decoction to make the Uber build the best build in the game, my build. A little bit more versatile, and to increase the stamina regeneration and making use of Ard Sweep. And that's something I want to try out in a sort of no armor setting as well, because I think that would prove very effective and is one of the interesting ways of demonstrating that your tactics can overcome your setup if you do want to try something a bit more like a challenge playthrough. So I'm just going to loot all these things in here, make sure we've just got every little thing that we can, might as well. Got some more Dwarven Spirit there, and Fruit and Nuts, which are, you know, the types of items that heal for 80 per second, which are very useful to have. So always good to grab a few more of them. Those, seeing as how we have Gourmet. So just very quickly check there's nothing I want to dump in my stash. Nothing particular at the moment. Still reasonably empty, so I can just hang on to stuff for now. speak to the Baron and then do this fight against the... I'm not sure if it is a Basilisk, it's definitely a Draconid. I think it is a Basilisk because it can poison you, if I remember. And that's one of the most irritating aspects of this fight, but just have to deal with it because these parts with Ciri are non-negotiable, nothing you can do with those, so... Alright, so we're just going to be carrying on, skip through this stuff and do this little bit with Ciri as well, and then we can go on from there. I don't know why the Baron doesn't believe a Witcher when a Witcher is telling him about these crones, so yeah. Let's go with this. Right. Oh, he's got a bit of a bleeding heart for the Baron, even though he is a very, you know, very flawed character, but again, that's what makes him really interesting. So, okay, so we're going to go through all of this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Skip through all this. Nah, I don't care. I'm being a... Yeah, Witcher, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, so again, we get another bunch of experience, so we get even closer to level 9, and then we'll go with that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go through all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Skip through this, and then, as if you remember, we got attacked at the end of the horse race in the last little Ciri quest when the Baron was retelling that. So we're just going to skip through again. You have to fight this thing. This fight is one of the ones that demands absolute patience. It's very frustrating. You just got to dodge as much as you can, get the odd hit in, but I really hate fighting this thing, especially because if I recall correctly, this is the one that can actually spit things at you, which it is, and can poison you, so just try and get behind it, deal damage as much as possible. How on earth I've got a wolf here as well? That doesn't normally happen, but that's a bit frustrating. I didn't even know that could happen, but at least it died in one hit. So just got to keep your eye on this thing. Keep dodging around, wait for it to land, and then strike it when it comes down. But yeah, it is annoying. Even more so than normal, series combat is mainly just bashing B and then X. I just find it boils down to that. So unless there's something I'm missing, I don't think she has any of her other skills yet, so you can't charge with Y in this one. But it can do big damage and then inflict you with bleeding, which is what it's done just there, which is why it's so annoying. So you just got to keep your distance and keep dodging around. Very slowly get your health back. And it can even afflict you with bleeding purely by not doing anything apart from shouting. So it is just an annoying fight. You got to wait for your health to regenerate. And just keep dodging. And then eventually take it out. So not really a lot you can do. And sometimes you can come extremely close to death like that without really even doing anything. So yeah, I very, very nearly died there. And did, in fact. So after the cutscene ends, I died. Such a frustrating fight. There aren't really any tips for that. I mean, like you see, I played it really, really patient, but then it just landed and hit me and did poisoning at the same time. And I died after the cutscene, so not a great deal you can do there. If you have, you just have to have as much patience as possible. I mean, I could have carried on just dodging and let my health regenerate to full before I tried to hit the last strike there, but momentary impatience just costs you enormously, so just be careful when you're fighting this thing, because it is extremely irritating like that. Not much else you can do in this fight though. It is, like I say, purely down to patience. And at least it's reasonable training for the even worse Crohn's fight that comes up. So yeah. Okay, let's have a look. Just wait for this to reload again. And then we'll go through. So get a few strikes in, and again just gets a massive strike off on me straight away, inflicts bleeding, and does a third of my health. There's no other, these sections are not good on deathmatch. I really don't like them, so not a lot else you can do. Especially if a random wolf just appears out of nowhere, which it seems to be doing this time, which I've never had happen before, but that's quite annoying. So yeah, just keep dodging, try and avoid the poison. Wait until it's got an attack, and then hit it a couple of times, dodge out. And again, pretty much all of its hits cause bleeding, so it is very annoying. So you just got to keep your distance, and then if you take a few hits like that, hope that you can regenerate your health soon enough by dodging away. So again, this is going to take a ton of dodging, and it's extremely boring, but not really much else we can do with it. So just let Siri's health regenerate if you get really damaged like this, whilst it's flying about doing not much. There's not really a lot to say, it's just mindlessly smashing B and then try and get a few hits in. Gradually got health up a bit, dodge its little poison, get another hit in, dodge away. And then got hit whilst dodging and poisoned and bleeding, so again just gonna have to go back to dodging, blah 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 blah. Yeah, I mean this is the slightly ironic thing is that these bits are no easier or more difficult on the regular playthrough. They're like this already. Got a little bit of a hit in there against it. Ugh, and then without even really getting hit, it got bleeding again, poisoning, whatever. Get a few hits in, then dodge away. Same again. Much dodging. Can use the B dodge to cover a bit more ground. But again, you still get poisoned, even just from it like crying out, which is frustrating. And she doesn't have anything else that she can use. She doesn't have like any signs or anything to knock it down. So yeah, this is like one of the least fun bits of any deathmatch playthrough. You just gotta gradually be patient and whittle it down. Okay, so we eventually managed that. Extremely boring part of the game without dying at the end as well, so that's always useful.
Damn it! I can't leave him like that.
Well, you could do Siri to be fair, but she didn't, because this is all in the past, so. Not really sure why it makes you climb that one ledge before it does the next cutscene, but yeah. Whatever. So we get to see Siri enact her revenge on this extremely irritating thing. And then after that, I think we are really done with the Baron's quests apart from the level 9 one to return to Crookback Bog. At which point I'll probably go and do Tower for Mice and things like that. Okay, so that's all done, blah 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 blah. Okay, where are we gone?
Now?
Right, so that's all that bit done. And now we can carry on. So yeah, another really good quest. Some really interesting storylines and stuff, capped off by another terrible Siri mission, so... yeah. On we go. So we're just going to skip through all this again. Do all this. This is getting the Return to Crookback Bog quest. And then we've got Ugliest Man Alive. If only we could just take him now and go to Kaemor and we could skip a chunk out. But yeah, well, never mind. Alright. Well, quite. What a fun line. He's got away with words, hasn't he? Anyway, so carrying on doing all this stuff. Blah 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 blah. Carry on. Off goes the Baron. We'll meet up with him later. Okay, so we've got the letter of safe conduct, and that's all sorted. So again, we're very close to the next level already, even though we only just leveled up at the end of the last quest. So the odd things about Witcher 3 is you actually get tons of different levels from the various quests, but it's also that do life experience. Most games get handsome for the side quests, but not really in Witcher about the main quest. Check not picked up. More some of the higher level items, the alchemy stuff that you want to make. But just at the minute, there's nothing that we are able to make yet because we're not up to making the superior potions or bombs. So for now, just keep a few of them and sell a few if you need to any of the alchemists that give a good price. And again, that's another source of money that I find extremely useful. Those and the alchemy pastes as well. So. Okay. I believe you can talk to this guy about a contract. I'm not going to actually take the contract yet, but I might as well speak to him just for when we get to it. And speak to the guy, a little kid who's round back. That gets you a tiny bit of extra experience as well. So compared to the thousands of coins that we've already got, the rewards for these, the haggling doesn't really make a lot of difference, but might as well do it or not. Just gonna again skip through this. Already looted in this house, it seems. And just talk to Simcoe. And from what I remember, I normally just turn down the reward and let him keep it for Simcoe anyway, so the haggling was completely pointless. Calm him down. Get a little bit of, tiny bit of extra experience points from Axie. And then carry on. So I could do some of these contracts, but they're not really necessary yet. Nothing significant in the treasure hunts until I get to level 11 when I can use the Griffin swords, which I will be doing. So I'll go and play Haddie first for the Gwent card. Just start this side quest first. Yeah. Okay, so try and kill this guy. Well, defeat this guy because he's hell-bent on actually challenging you. He's only level 9 now, so it's within sort of range. It's easier just to wait for him to parry, but he's quite slow at attacking, so... But if you wait for him, you can beat him pretty easily like that. And then just go on my way. There's a very interesting theory about that guy, actually. If you read about one of the things you can pick up from the notice boards, you know, the things that aren't quests. There are lots of things that you can pick up that aren't actual quests. They're just like little fun notices. And one of the things is about the funeral of Maid Bilberry, and this guy challenges you because he is saying that Lady Bilberry is the finest in the land, and so there's a theory that's his daughter, and that crazy from her having passed away. He's gone in with grief, setting really. So good little touches and stuff like Witcher as well, if that's what it is. So fun stuff like that as well. So we're just going to sort out Maddie first, then go and talk to Kira. He's not here until you beat the boatwright guy in Oriton, from what I remember. I already came and spoke to the village elder about the Jenny of the Woods contract, I think. which is this guy stood just behind him. But you can't. Hattie's not here to play until you've unlocked that sort of quest for him. So lots of good cards there. Should be fine. Don't need the Biting Frost as much because I already had the Villain Tretameth, so I can use that in place of a card if needed. I'll just win this outright. And I also have 2 medics and a decoy, so I can afford to play these catapults as well. So that makes him at least waste the Scorch so that he can't use it a second time. I'll just see what gets played here. So they've not played any spies and they've not played a medic there. So there's a pretty reasonable chance that they don't have any spies or medics, and so they've only got 6 cards left now. I have a 1 card advantage, and it should be pretty easy for me to win. So if I want to use that Scorch card, I want to do it before I medic back this catapult, so I might as well use that now. Double up this row first. And they still not used Scorch, so that one must have been the only one they had. And we should be able to win this pretty easily now. So he proved absolutely no use at all. No challenge whatsoever. And we've won that extremely easily. And just to add insult to injury, gonna decoy and take off that 4 off his score. Oh, that's the card, or should, from what I remember. And now we're just going to do Kira's quest. And on we go. Actually meant to grab that plant, not to mount up Roach again, so on you go, Roach. Grab some herbs while we're here. Might as well while it's all free.
The rats, why did he need them?
Bloody rodents.
Always wondered what this stuff is up here, but I can never seem to actually get up there to get it, so probably nothing too amazing. Skip all this stuff. See what she's got. She may have the Tawny Owl potion recipe, but possibly not. See what she's got. She does have a potion of clearance, which is useful, but she doesn't sell them any cheaper than the guy in town, so no need there. And while she has runestone things, she doesn't have any of the out for from her. Nothing particularly great, so. And she buys stuff for terrible prices, if I remember correctly as well. Yeah, she buys things for really low prices, so it's not worth really selling to her either. So could buy Diviner runestones from her, but as you saw before, it's a lot cheaper to craft them instead of paying 700 just to buy one of those stones. And the potion of clearance again, you can just buy in town. So no real need for that. So not buying anything from her just at the minute.
I did.
Okay, so we're going to try and cross the lake and do these particular quests. And there's some really interesting stuff in this quest. You do tend to find quite a lot of chests with alchemy recipes and things, and you can get quite a few necrophage hides from all the rot fiends there, which if you need to sell them can get you a good chunk of money as well if you're running a little bit short. So you could ignore these, but you also need to complete these quests if you want to get the achievement for having everybody meet up at Kaer Morhen later in the game. There is an achievement for having all of your allies beside you, and you need to have finished this quest and chose certain options at the end of it in order to get Kira to come along. So this is one that you'd need to do if you're trying to get those type of things as well. So now we just have to see where we're going. And go to Kira's boat. These also, this quest also has the infamous enemy upscaling rats in it. For those of you that don't know, if you have enemy upscaling and deathmatch on, the rats, which are supposed to be level 1, get scaled up to your level. So instead of doing tiny amounts of damage and just being interesting annoyances, they can actually be severely dangerous enemies. So you have to be a bit careful with those. Just going to take out these drowners because I may be able to get some drowner tongues and make that adrenaline potion, the enhanced Maribor one, before I do anything else. Although there will be some to fight during this quest as well. Get them all bunched up. Try and set fire to them. Didn't get any of them, but not the biggest. Be able to take them out anyway. All of them burning there. So I'll take these the sword whilst they're just. And that should be no problem for killing this guy afterwards. Let him burn first, and then as he's recovering, get blow. So you don't there. I only got the one pickup from one of them, so wasn't really worth it in the end. But you can't really know till after you've done it, so never mind. So we just need to try and find this boat, even though it was right there and I just missed it. Never mind. An interesting little bit to get in the middle of the lake here. There's a bunch of different stuff there that you can get. A lot of alchemy recipes swimming underwater, so we'll go down there and try and get those as well. Right, so the boat travels annoyingly slow some of the time, but you just gotta sort of stick with it most of the time. Still marginally quicker than swimming at least. Check there are no chests as you go in, it's sideline, so. Or on the shore rather. Okay. So we're just going to travel with the boat. I'm going to ignore Fyke Isle first. He'll hear Kira over the Xenovox first. But I'm just going to ignore the quest for now. Just go around the side and explore and get all of the different alchemy recipes first.
One way only, I'm afraid. You'll have to trust my feminine intuition.
Your what?
My feminine intuition.
Wonderful.
I'm pretty sure it's this area that has the undiscovered location, that has the bit where you can dive and get all of the alchemy recipes, but I'll be able to check when I get there. So this is the actual island itself. As you can see, tons of necrophages, the rot fiends, so we'll be careful as we come along with them because they can be extremely dangerous, as I was saying before when we encountered them. But first I'll just check out this little island and then go from there. Again, I like the places where you can get clusters of the alchemy recipes. They are extremely useful. Don't know what that scream was. There was nobody about. So that's a little bit strange, but oh well. Now as you do this, you will get ambushed by a bunch of drowners, so useful to have a bomb handy or something like that, and to have the necrophage oil on the blade, which I should have already. So just going to be prepared, because like I say, you do get these things can be a little bit of a problem. So I'm not going to take any risks. I'm going to put Qued on first. And use some of the effective bombs as well. Might as well put that back on while we're there. I like when you're actually preparing for fights like this, because you know that seems a little more witchery to me. So I do find that quite interesting. So all these drowners come out. There should be quite a few of them. Wait until they all come out first. And then I'll be able to use the dancing star, set them all burning. And this is why fire damage is so effective, especially with the potions that I just took to raise my sign intensity. I have a better chance of setting them aflame and then doing a ton of damage like that. And then afterwards you can use the northern wind bombs to freeze them as well. Get a few hits and instant kills in with that, which is extremely useful too. Because if you have that many of them in short quarters, in close quarters, it can be a little bit difficult. So you want to just be careful when you're attacking those. No idea who it is that's screaming at the minute, because there are no peasants around, so maybe that's just a little bit of a bug. But again, there are tons of drowners to take out. And this is the main thing that you want, is the little sunken chest quest. So there are absolutely loads of things to grab here, so before you dive you want to make sure that you have your crossbow equipped, because there are a few drowners down here as well. I've got gourmet going, and I'm also going to have the cat and the killer whale potions active, just so I can see what's going on, and make sure that we grab all this stuff. Although they do show up pretty well with the Witcher things anyway. So, but there are absolutely loads of these chests down here, so you have to sort of surface and redive quite a few times, and some of them are hid pretty well. And also you want to be able to take out the ego. So down here, because there are like a bunch of different chests, and some of them are like sort of hidden away a little bit. Can get some quite interesting things in them. Get a bunch of stuff, but some of them are really well hidden. Alchemy recipes in. Always. So try and explore every nook and cranny with the Witcher senses as well. So if you see that little glimmer of yellow, I can try and find those. Right, I'll come back for that one, because otherwise I'm going to drown. So there are two down there, and then there are a couple on the other side as well, so I'll just wait for Geralt to get all of his breath back. There's that one over there. There was one down here, I believe, as well. It's these ones like these that are just a little bit hidden, that are quite tricky to find, so you want to make sure you try and get all those. Another drowner over there, so I'll have to watch out for that when I come back this way. And a lot of runestones and stuff, so that even if you're not able to use them all, which you know you'll probably not be able to fit them all on a weapon or anything like that, they are very useful to sell, as I've been doing in this playthrough. There are a few times when you just want to sell the runestones or glyphs instead, because they're a good source of money. Or you can always use them later on after we bought all the other and combine like witches. I believe there are more over here as well, so I'm just going to look for those after I've got his breath back. Probably is the last one, so. But yeah, there are absolutely tons of stuff to get around here. There is one there as well, so. So again, mostly runestones and the odd diagram, but extremely useful stuff. And it's all free, so definitely worth getting. A little bit easier if you've got killer whale, you have to make less trips up and down. But definitely worth exploring and grabbing all this stuff. So I've grabbed all that, I'm just going to make my way back up. Can't see any more yellow, so hopefully I've got them all there. That red thing on the side that you saw was just telling me that there is a Witcher gear about, but I've already got that woven gear, so that's fine. You can always tell if you found the main treasure at a place because it'll go to grey instead of white, so that's greyed out, so I've already got that. Right, so now we're going back to Tower Full of Mice. I'll just reapply my oil before I forget. Because I already know that all of the enemies are going to be necrophages on this particular island. Just going to have a drink because I'm a little bit parched, and I'm just going to set the boat going to Fyke Island. So I will resume the commentary momentarily. Not quite sure how you reverse a boat like that, but you know, the boat mechanics are a little bit bad anyway, so I think I'll just ignore them. Do excuse me, a little bit parched. Right, so we're just going to carry on to Fyke Isle. Again, bunch of stuff to get here. Load of drowners, load of rock fiends. And if you can take on the rock fiends safely, it's always worth doing.
Geralt, are you on the Isle yet? Does the Xenobox work? Can you hear me?
Try and burn these if at all possible.
What?
I'm going to get them all together, get a few strikes in, and then try and burn them.
What did you say? Listen to spirit. You must be very careful.
I'll be meditating soon anyway, so worth trying to use these up. Because these are dangerous enemies, and if you can kill them from distance, it's better. Particularly when they start coughing and exploding. Because then they can kill each other, like that. And set off a chain reaction where they all sort of die. Which is extremely useful. Dodge away, and then he should die as well. Jana's just trying to get in on the action as well. Okay, so pretty useful. Got another Drowner tongue there. You get all the rot fiend blood and stuff like that as well. And that's what you wanted for killing these things. If you can get some necrophage hides, they're actually quite valuable, so very useful. Ard's very useful as well if you can get a bit of sign intensity going, like if you have the enhanced Petri or the Foglet decoction in use and stuff like that. That can be another good one. Haven't actually found any low-level Foglets that have dropped the Foglet mutagen for me yet, so you can get it from as low as level 4 if you're a bit lucky. But high-level Foglets are a little bit dangerous, so they're not something I would take on with my No Armour playthrough at the minute. Just going to carry on exploring, take everything out. Always good to have Quinn up before you start a battle, obviously. Just going to carry on exploring the island, try and find everything on here. Because like I say, you do get a fair few things that are useful. So, got some ghouls there as well. And if you can inflict poisoning on them, it's very useful. So, a big part of why the combat actually gets easier as you go through the game, which is one of the main criticisms that people have, is that if you use the skills correctly, there are a lot of skills that are very useful. So the skill tree works exactly as it should, and it makes Geralt more Witcher-like and better at combat. But that also means that you have more things available to be able to take out the enemies. And that being the case, it does make the combat a little bit easier sometimes. So let's just have a look here. I'm going to put the oils back on there. Try and get everything together and then set them burning if at all possible. I didn't actually get them burnt there, so next time the stamina bar regens, I'll use the Dragon's Dream first. And then try and get them all burning. It's taking a bit of damage there, but if I can get them all grouped together in that cloud, then I'll be alright. Sadly, I didn't get any of them burning, so have to be a little bit careful. See if rot fiends are susceptible to the poisoning as well. Don't seem to be taking a lot of damage in from the poisoning, so rot fiends probably not something that you can actually get that from. We'll get the Dragon's Dream again. And that burning damage is really good just for those. Stay patient, stay dodging. And then once they start to explode, they'll do tons of damage to each other. And then start killing each other off with their own explosions, which is good. And that's why you got to have Quinn up against at all times against these. Because otherwise that will do enormous damage to you and kill you as well. So a little bit more rot fiend blood there as well. You can actually insta-kill these things like that with Ard, and if you're using a build that's got more Ard skills or more sign intensity, that's a really good way of dealing with them, because for some reason the little explosion won't hurt you then. So that's something that's really worth looking into if you do have more sign intensity as well. And can be very useful with a sort of Griffin build, so something to bear in mind when you're doing this bit of the game. Lots of useful stuff on this island, so it's well worth doing. Again, just try and keep these things in the cloud, and then if I can get a few of them together near the Dragon's Dream cloud, I can set them on fire. And that burning does a lot of damage, so because you've got so many different types of potions, you can just use the potions to do different types of damage and use up your bombs as well. So every use of hard alcohol like alkahest or anything like that that restocks all your alchemy things becomes more and more potent the further you go through the game and the better use you make of alchemy. So I really love the alchemy system in Witcher 3. And from a gameplay standpoint, having the hard alcohol recover everything does stop you from having to tediously collecting all the different ingredients every time. So I really like that as a system. It lets you make good use of alchemy. The only problem is that it's pretty strong, so it trivializes the difficulty a little bit. So I may move away from using alchemy as much as I would normally. Like even with it not being a normal playthrough where I'm using armor to reduce the damage that I'm taking, it would be beneficial to have the Aracast decoction and protective coating, but that rather is not as much in the spirit of a no armor playthrough. So I think I'm going to avoid that a little bit more and not focus on as much alchemy as I would have done, or just focus on the skills that let you use your alchemy recipes and make good use of the bombs and potions without using the ones that do reduce the actual damage that you're taking as much, if that makes sense. So we'll see. I haven't made a design of to how I'm going to build this. I have a few ideas of what I do normally and how it would relate to a no armor playthrough. I've been using some of those things already, but some of it is just avoiding the most overpowered stuff as well, like avoiding the use of Griffin School techniques and Cat School techniques and things like that, which is some of the really powerful techniques early on. So
Let's try Kira's lamp.
that is not what I meant to do.
They left us, look! All of them done went! We just swim, come on! What about all this? I can't leave it!
Actually stood in my own poison at the minute, but never mind.
And come back for me.
Gourmet will make up for it, so it doesn't really matter.
Why wouldn't I? Be back before you know it.
So we've got a few more rot fiends to take out. And again, if I can draw them together and just try and burn them all at once, that'd be better. So get these things all bunched up. And then I'll use the enhanced petri after that. And try and burn them. I'm actually out of most of my potions at the minute, so be a little bit more careful with these things. But again, if I can get them whittled down, then I can make good use of everything else to kill them off. So see if I can actually get them to stop still with salmon. Momentarily stop them, but not as effective as it is against some other enemies. But those are going to explode, and that'll take out the other ones. So, and then draw this one towards him. And there's just one left. So the rot fiends are quite cool to fight because you can like sort of chain reaction them, and then get them to take each other out. And again, got more of those valuable necrophage hides, so those are really good too. Okay, so these green clouds you can just use the magic lamp on, obviously. See the scenes and get a little bit of experience from those as well.
His arse on silk pillows, likely be goblin meat. With no notion he's coming to tear him to shreds. Way's clear, lads. Adam!
Okay, so a little bit of experience for every one of those. Water hag there as well. So I can get some fire damage on her as well. And you see that the burning does a really good chunk of the health, so, and it also lets you recover your own stamina whilst they're burning. So extremely useful. And then the bleeding and poisoning will do the rest with the light strikes that we've got. So damage over time is extremely useful early in the game. Like again, making use of everything that's available to you makes a big difference. More necrophages there, but I'm not going to go back to take them out specifically. I've done pretty well for taking out a bunch of those already. So what that is will become clear in due course. And again, there's a bunch of stuff to pick up here. Few rarer herbs like honeysuckle and stuff. But there's also a bunch of alchemy recipes and other things like that. So make sure you're exploring here as well. Just going to try and grab everything myself. Flawless sapphire, they're extremely valuable as well if you do need to sell those. Make sure you sell them to somebody who gives good prices, because you don't want to sell valuable stuff like that to somebody who's giving bad prices for selling things. So yeah, a few valuable materials around here. Gourmet's run out, so I'm just going to use something else there as well. And off we go. Another scene to watch here. Just try and watch all of these because you do get bonus experience if you complete them all as well. Even if it is a bit boring.
So, burning. What? No. No, stay back. Don't leave me.
Okay, so we've got all this stuff. Another bit of experience there. Pick up all the stuff over here and then we'll carry on into the tower. Alright. Nothing over here except a bit of wolfsbane, it seems. Check if there's anything up here and then we can carry on. Alright, so that's pretty much everything, I think. Apart from looting the corpses of the dead, obviously.
Place is full of rats. As many dead as alive. I think they're feeding on...
Look, Geralt, stop. You needn't leave the details.
Where's that? Where's that noble? Lying here, quiet as a mouse. Head split open, rotten.
Okay.
More like a peasant now, sloshing around on his own.
We've got all this stuff and then there's a few things to grab in the basement as well.
Too quick a death they gave him.
And like I say, 1 or 2 alchemy recipes further up that you can normally get in chests up on the roof and stuff like that. So
Suffer for it, and the daughter, to the top.
blood.
I think I might have missed one of those things outside looking at it, but I'll try and remember to get it on the way back out.
Understands like rabbit. Let him out, maybe. Like to die of hunger if we leave him there. I'd sooner burn the vermin
Alright. Doing stuff like this on replays, I've got to be perfect.
How do you figure they for him? Clever little bastards. They seem sluggish to you. Got the mange, maybe?
Yeah, so we watched through all this stuff and then we're going to be carrying on. We've got to fight the Pester coming up. And then we can do the rest of the quest. So just going through here, grabbing everything that we need to. Always useful to grab all this stuff, even if it is sometimes potentially pointless stuff like that. Silver's always useful. We can use that a little more on this playthrough as well, because I'll be making a little bit more use of the broadhead bolts, which are particularly useful because they inflict bleeding on enemies, so it's always useful to be able to inflict bleeding from a distance if you don't want to be taking damage, so that's useful as well.
Don't start, Annabelle. Always bending my ear about fool peasants. I'm not
And then we will get to meet Annabelle very shortly.
turn your head, but one Graham hardly makes the
Say hi in the chat, how are you doing today? How are things going on? Let me know what you've been up to and stuff like that. So I'll be continuing with this playthrough anyway, so I've got all of this stuff to do, and then after we've done this quest we'll be carrying on with the mission in Crookback Bog, which is extremely useful as well, because you get to fight a fiend at the end of that, and you get the fiend mutagen after that too. So
Piles of it. Oh, won't do the dead any good now, will it?
So I think this is the last one if I've watched them all, but it looks like I may have missed one outside from the look of things, so maybe get that on the way back.
Show yourself. Anyone there? Who? Who are you?
Oh, are you serious? Oh, I hate when that happens. Anyway, just got to go through this.
The noble died a time ago.
Watch this again. This is kind of a frustrating quest for doing this optional bit, so I maybe should have left that, but since I've done most of them now, might as well do it. Yeah, so there is one more for me to do, it looks like. Check if there's anything out here to grab. There's a few more crafting materials and everything else. Get quite a few saltpeter in here as well, which is useful for making bombs and everything else. So that's always a good thing. Right, so we've got to complete this.
Someone dragged something across the floor.
Moving all this stuff.
Dragged it from one wall to the other repeatedly.
Okay. So I'm just going to actually turn off the enemy scaling for these rats. I know with a normal build I can actually take them out, but I don't think it's a particularly good idea on a no armor one, especially when I don't have the sign intensity to keep Quen up. So
Experimenting on humans. Never would have gotten away with it if the Conclave were still in charge.
well, quite. Okay, so let's have a look. You know full well that this is dangerous.
Mage who lived.
And like you say, you don't really want to take the bones off this island, so yeah, we've got to drink that, blah 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 blah. Or listen to how she drunk that. Pretty horrible way to die, to be fair.
You. Not.
Okay.
No.
Right, so we've got all this stuff, blah 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 blah. She says take
You're
everything off the island and all that stuff, so
that's my Really?
Not taking those bones off the island, obviously. Oh look, she's a bad guy. What a surprise. So, just got the rats as level 1, as they should be. Because this is the problem otherwise. I'm going to have to chase her downstairs. Kill her first. I should have really gone upstairs and grabbed all the recipes, but I just realised I've done that in slightly the wrong order, so never mind. I'll make sure I've got Spectre Oil on there. And the Moon Dust Bomb is really useful as well. And even though I've meditated for 2 hours, she's still right outside, so that's convenient. And I'll be able to take her out. Well, temporarily. So put on Quen again before we actually get into the fight. And then put Erden down. And be able to do good damage to her that way. And when she disappears, I'll just get Moon Dust Bomb ready. Make her easier to take out that way.
What was that? It sounded for a moment like you joined the race yourself.
Had to fight a pesta.
Scary. Right.
And did you learn
I'm just going to run upstairs before I forget and grab all of the potion recipes.
Yeah, we talked a bit. Looks like I need to
Because that's going to be a problem otherwise if I forget. Those are very useful to have, so I don't want to...
immediately? We're close to unraveling this. I can feel it.
She's very bossy. Anyway, just come upstairs and grab all this stuff first. I swear I normally get an alchemy recipe up here somewhere. Maybe it's one of the ones that I bought already, so never mind.
kept in there until the end. What a shitty way
But I've made good use of those so far, so that's absolutely fine anyway. Okay, so we got all that stuff sorted. Now we just have to go and find Graham and finish this off. After we finish this off, there's a couple of the quests that you need to do for Kira as well. But they don't take a very long time, so they can be done relatively quickly. Just gonna fast travel because I hate using the boats and stuff, so... They're extremely annoying. Okay. So, we'll be carrying on with this, finishing this quest, and then have a couple of other quests, like I say, that we need to do with the Baron's missions and all that. Speak to Graham first and then go on. You don't want to see no one. He's got a great little accent. Alright, so we're going to do this and then we're going to go back and all that kind of stuff as well. Get out of the way, I've got a game to play. Come on. On we go. On, there we go. Okay.
It's not God. If you wrong. Anna, yeah.
So after we've done all this stuff, we'll be very close to finishing this quest. Although Graham won't meet the best end, to be perfectly honest. We're just going to go so I don't have to bother with the boat riding and all that, boat and all that kind of stuff.
Let's go to the tower.
Alright, so we've got to do all this stuff. And Graham comes down with like the worst case of the kissing disease in recorded history. So these bog standard wraiths pretty easy to beat. Although they can be a little bit annoying occasionally. Does remind me to put upscaling back on. So this is one of the reasons why I'm never that bothered about having as much elemental resistance on a build. Apart from certain spectres, like Jenny of the Woods is extremely difficult, but like apart from that, they don't really provide that much of a challenge compared to normal enemies. Like they're not as damaging. You can cope with them reasonably well even on deathmatch. So again, this is another one that's very interesting quest when you're first playing it through. Has some nice little twists and things, particularly after you've finished Kira's interactions with it. On we go. And finish all this off. Would you really though? Would you?
The curse is lifted, and Graham and Annabella.
Of course you wouldn't. Crazy. Little bit grim, but you do get a lot of experience for it, which is why it's a good quest to do, I think. One thing I did miss is we've leveled up so quickly that I actually forgot that we would have another slot there. So I can either get a green mutagen and have some extra health. But that's not really worth it, so I'm not that bothered about that. I'd rather actually just create a greater blue one, have a little bit of extra sign intensity, or a little bit of extra damage. I think I'll go with sign intensity because burning is so very useful. Level 10 we'll get another skill slot as well, which will be again very useful. So I could go with Poison Blades and carry on with the alchemy theme, and that would help me with getting to Skellige early. But I could just as easily forego the alchemy route a little bit for now and go with signs instead. And the reason I'm thinking of doing that is I normally do use a lot of alchemy and it's extremely overpowered tree. So in keeping with the theme of it being no armor and use something a little more skills based instead of just alchemy. But I'll make that decision a little bit later, doing absolutely fine as we are now. So it's not necessary right this second. Have I come right down to the basement? I have. Never mind. No, I haven't. What am I doing? There we go. Okay, so that should be absolutely fine, all done. That's another quest and another bunch of EXP for that one. So that one's, again, very useful and interesting little quest. I'm just going to fast travel back here because this is the place where you can fight a Arakas if it's respawned after you've cleared the undiscovered locations, and this is one of the things I wanted to show, where you can sometimes get lesser red mutagens from fighting these things. So if it's about, there'll be an Arakas somewhere. I can defeat the insectoid and the Arakas and maybe get a lesser red mutagen. Yeah, see, there it is in the distance. And this thing can sometimes give a, like I say, can sometimes give a lesser mutagen, so it's very useful. Although it can also be a little bit dangerous, so I'll have to be a little bit careful. Didn't get the burn on it, which is a little bit of a shame. So I just have to keep chipping away. I hit it a little bit early then. I shouldn't have hit it right away. I should have let the flames carry on damaging it. And obviously they do inflict poison as well. So it'd be useful for me to have the Golden Oriole active, which clears any poison and then stops you getting poisoned as well while it lasts. So that's a useful one. Again, Arakas have a little bit of armor, so you're better off using the strong attacks. As you can see, the strong attacks doing a lot more damage against these. And again, with the acquired tolerance, I've got that many more toxicity points now that I can make good use of these things, keep using my potions. And I can always just meditate afterwards. If you're fighting a lot of different enemies at once, like I am here, it's a good idea to do that. This is why I think alchemy is a really useful and powerful branch of the skill tree. Try and break my way out here. Get those heavy attacks in because they do a lot more damage. And then kill that thing off. Right, so you get all the stuff for beating these, but you will sometimes get a lesser red mutagen instead of a lesser blue mutagen. So it's worth it. If you're fast travelling over to this side anyway, then you might as well fast travel here and see if this thing has respawned. And then you can fight it a couple of times and try and get some red mutagens before you go to Skellige, which is, you know, always useful. For now, only just got a lesser blue from it, so no major letdown, but you know, it's going to be carrying on. That's why Acquired Tolerance is such a brilliant skill. You can either use a ton of potions instead of just like 3 or 4, or you can use some mutagens instead. Mutations instead. The decoctions instead. I haven't made many of the decoctions yet. I find the Foglet one very useful early on, but I haven't got the Foglet. I haven't actually got the Foglet. Oh, I have. I've got the Foglet mutagen, so I could use that if I wanted. The Echidna one's excellent, but you need to travel to Skellige for that, which is one of the reasons I'm thinking of doing that. But again, I don't want to make it too easy, which it probably would do if I did that. And the Ancient Leshen one, I'll try and take on the Ancient Leshen, I think, early, and get that, because I just love that as part of the combat. It's one of my favourite combat mechanics, is having Ard Sweep with the Ancient Leshen decoction. So you could use the Algol decoction and the Wyvern decoction, so they both give bonuses until you take the first hit in battle, and those are really useful. So if you had a build themed around not taking damage, those would be some of the decoctions that you're going to use. So that's another one that's interesting. So yeah, there's quite a few interesting decoctions that you can use, and actually I could use skill switching as well. So I'll probably demonstrate that at some point, because skill switching isn't just for the end game builds, although it can be useful for some of those. You can also use it throughout the game as well, as soon as you've got Acquired Tolerance, pretty much. So really would like to get that enhanced Tawny Owl recipe from somewhere though, so I don't know where that's hiding. Maybe in any of the undiscovered locations that I've not been to yet, so I have to explain. I have to explore a little bit. So Kirsty's gone. Good. On we go. And then she's got one more thing for us to do, which is a separate quest and all that. So we'll do that. And we can talk to the Peller about Forefather's Eve as well, and all that kind of stuff. So just so many side quests that you can do in this game and all this kind of stuff. It's quite interesting. But for now, I can either continue on to Novigrad for the main quests, or I can finish some of the Vellum ones that we've got. Not quite sure if I'm going to do all of these on a on this No Armour playthrough, so I'll do some of them, but not all of them. And then very shortly I'll be on to the Novigrad quests. I might actually skip ahead a little bit and try and get to the Skellige early, because there are some really good benefits to doing that. Although I don't think I'll be able to do the quest with the Ancient Leshen just yet. But you never know. So anyway, we've got these nice little boosts here. We don't have any lesser reds yet, so we can't use those. But we're doing alright, and it's going absolutely fine considering it's a No Armour playthrough. So I think I'll leave it there for this episode. Thank you very much for watching if you're still with me at the end. Please like, comment and subscribe if you are watching on YouTube. And also, if you want to subscribe to me on Twitch after the fact and watch some of these live, it's Demon Phoenix 237 on there, I believe, as well. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of our No Armour playthrough, and I'll speak to you all later on the path.